Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on what time you're listening to this. I'm your host, Garrett J. Lawrence, and welcome to another episode of People Watching. Today's episode's pretty laid back. Just got a couple things I wanted to talk about. Really, I'm only recording this because I had the options. I had to choose between two options, and it was either I played an hour of Fortnite's new season and new chapter, and explored the map a little bit, or I chose something that held a little bit higher rank in the intellectual in intellectual currency and recorded like 30 minutes or 45 minutes of an episode. So I, of course, am going to do both. I'm going to record this episode and play some Fortnite. No, just kidding. I'm in between classes and work right now, so I thought, you know what? Why not just get another episode down? And so, nothing too crazy. We had an episode on Friday that we did. That was a lot of fun. And so today's a little bit more laid back. My skin has broken out with some horrible acne. I'm super excited about that. I'm going to fix this lighting real quick. Just give me 1 second. Should be a little bit better. Anyway, you saw the bottom half of Garrett. He's wearing jeans and Ruka belt. And a sweater that's really tight on his neck. Anyway, I've got my tea beside me today. And we've got OBS up and running. We've got a new mixer. We've got another mic hopefully for our guests to use. I've been able to snag a lot of the recording equipment used and fairly cheap. So that's nice. But with that being said, we got a couple of things to talk about. Some more on the immigration stuff that Trump is starting to crack down on. Some more on Somali immigrants. Nick Shirley went to Minnesota this week and did some exploring, and he got some great coverage. I highly recommend people watch his video on Minnesota and what the mass immigration of Somalian refugees has done there, and how nobody speaks English. There's also a great hit piece that Time put out that we're also going to read through and have a little bit of fun making some critical analyses, some critical statements on the article. I really love it when they take an issue and they try to, chalk it up as some virtuous, cannon fodder, because then it just turns into virtuous cannon fodder for me. But so we've got that, and then like I said, Nick Shirley, and then and then what else? One more thing I wanted to talk about. Excuse me. Anyway, we'll get to it. But nothing too crazy in the news cycle today. Today's going to be kind of a filler episode. Golly, I'm sneezing. As you can see behind me, we have a new bulletin board, which is kind of awesome. I've had plenty of friends recommend to me putting a bulletin board in the background because this stuff over here looks really girly, apparently. I don't really care. I also, my ear has been pierced for a while, and I just haven't had a earring in it like at all since starting the show, and I finally put a stud back in last week. But anyway, so Trump is kind of furthering this effort to shut down third world immigration to the U.S., both legally and illegally. And so immigration all around is taking a hit. It's not even just the illegal crossings. And I think there's a lot of people that are worried that their friends or their family or certain people aren't going to be able to immigrate here and become legal. I have a friend that's struggling with that right now. But a lot of these people still understand why it's necessary. And to that I say, if you see that it's necessary, then it's kind of a tough crap situation. I don't want to be blunt, but it's so necessary and it has to happen that, yeah, some good people aren't going to get in. And that's fine. But also some people, even if they're good people, they're still going to import freaking third world mentality and reap the benefits of our welfare and, a green card and so on and so forth. Immigration has taken a huge tank since the Immigration Act in 1990. We were fairly well off. I think a lot of people look back at the 80s and 90s as, there wasn't a whole lot of racism. It wasn't too expensive to get into a home. You could start a family. The job market was good. There wasn't this ginormous, tech oligarchy going on. There weren't data centers getting built up everywhere. There was no flooding of migrants into the U.S. That all started to change in the early 90s, where it was, and we were like 90% European, 10% minority. Fast forward today, and we're accelerating to a, mostly minority country by the end of the century. And not that that's the problem. It's the fact that the minorities that are going to make up that percentage are importing their third world beliefs, and it's taking a tank on the, hereditary Americans here and our culture and our, not ecosystem, but social ecological environment, whatever you want to call it, American heritage. And people aren't assimilating like they did. I have friends whose family immigrated from Italy through Ellis Island, and they assimilated into the United States, and they refer to themselves as Italian Americans. That used to be the case. You were an Irish American, you were German American, you were African American. But now, I think the biggest example of this is people who are often claim they're running from something and seeking asylum in the U.S. are now just, waving the flag of the country they're trying to seek asylum from. You take an oath of allegiance when you come into the U.S. You have disavowed your home country completely. And so a lot of these people that come into the U.S., and this is also something that I think is going to change, and it's foreign-born, Americans are not allowed to hold an office. Because a lot of these people, there are maybe the 1% exception, but a lot of these people are incredibly critical and hateful of America, and they share allegiance to their home country. A lot of these Somalians that move to Minnesota are like this. You also have Ilhan Omar, who's, literally in office, and she hates America, says we're the problem, says we're oppressed, or she's oppressed, whatever. And she's saying this coming from a country that has no legitimate government, military, society, or political system, and has been overrun with terrorism, right? So she's not coming here and saying, oh, America's so great, they welcomed me, and blah, 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 blah. No, she's importing her freaking culture here and saying that we're getting it wrong. Why the hell did you come here in the first place? We're seeing this across the board now, everywhere you go. And it's just ridiculous. And I'm tired of it. Everybody else is tired of it. There's freaking, stupid, just virtue signaling that happens. Like, you get women who are like, I am an Arab woman. I am Islamic. I am feminist. And I'm also gay. And first of all, none of that makes sense, but they're going to freaking put the boot to your neck to try and make sure that you accept them. But not only that, but they're going to use those qualifications to somehow, give themselves a higher rank in society, that they need to be, they need more benefits and they should be put first before the people that, put together the country, right? Anyway. So with all that being said, I want to take a look at this article from Time. It's really funny to me. And so I've got kind of a little bit of a breakdown I wrote on basically not all the lies, but just some of the, stupid takes they have. So this is an article from Time that came out today at 4:30 in the morning. First of all, it's Christmas time. It's December 1st. I have lights up. You guys can't see him. I put him up in hopes you guys would be able to see him, but honestly, I'd need like a standing desk in order for you guys to see everything behind me. But enough of that. So Time puts out this article, and the title is What to Know About Trump's Targeting of Somalis in Minnesota and Allegations of Fraud. I love how they frame it as targeting. He's targeting Somalis. Maybe the Somalis should stop freaking putting themselves in the freaking spotlight, right? Maybe stop making yourself a target. Huh? Ever thought of that? Whatever. Stupid virtue signaling SEO garbage. So, the reporter goes on to say, when authorities found that an Afghan asylee was the suspect in a shooting near the White House last week, President Donald Trump used the incident to promote his reverse migration policy. By the way, it's not his policy, okay? He has uttered a lot of immigration policy, but reverse migration, this is the first we've seen of it. His tweet and his Truth Social post have, it's like 600,000 or 700,000 likes on Twitter. But it's the first time he's uttered that. Other people have been uttering that for a long time. I am starting to become in favor of it for a lot of reasons I talked about in the last episode, but I think it's the only way we it's the only way we can curb the immigration issue. And there are other people who have spoken in favor of this. It's a whole list. Anyway, Trump used the incident to promote his reverse migration policy proposal targeting refugees and other foreign nationals. In his remarks, he repeatedly singled out one nationality in particular, Somalis. Well, first off, I'm going to clarify something. We want everybody to reverse migrate. That includes Somalis, Afghans. That includes everybody, okay? It includes everybody. Oh, you're Muslim and you're trying to impose Sharia law on the streets of freaking New York? Yeah, out of my face. Get out of here. You're not welcome here. In response to a reporter's question during the president's call with troops on Thanksgiving, Trump admitted there was nothing linking Somalis to the shooting. Still, he claimed without evidence that Somalis have caused a lot of trouble. Okay. I think it's really silly that this author is looking for evidence, right, over a pretty vague statement that is Somalis have caused a lot of trouble. Okay, here's some facts. Gang warfare has been riled up in Minnesota. There are literally Somalis that have immigrated there as refugees and reaped, $50,000 in benefits, don't speak English, and there's gang warfare. And they've coordinated across certain parts of Minnesota, and certain apartment complexes are literally war zones for freaking third world tribal affiliation. So to say that he needs to provide exact citations on the statement that Somalis have caused a lot of trouble is just a freaking straw man to kind of make you feel like, it's to make you feel like, because he said that without exact quotes or anything, or without exact citations, that the statement is invalid, which is a freaking terrible argument. The day after the shooting near the White House, Trump ordered a review of green cards issued to migrants from 19 countries of concern, including Somalia. Okay, again, though, it's not just about Somalia. They're a great example because, think about it in the last couple of weeks. 5-6 weeks? We've seen examples of freaking third world. I got to stop saying freaking, but third world, migration and third world gang affiliation show up on the streets of Minnesota, right? It's happening in other places, but it's particularly being highlighted because we had a guy running for mayor who lost votes because other Somalis wouldn't vote for him because of the frickin' tribe he's affiliated with overseas. This is happening on American soil, okay? Minnesota in the 90s was like full of it was like a Scandinavian hub, and now it's a big Somali breeding ground. You know what I mean? Like what's happening? Breeding ground is in breeding for gang violence and more Somalis. Anyway, And in a Thanksgiving message posted on Truth Social, where he announced that he would permanently pause migration from third world countries, he particularly blasted the Somali community in Minnesota. The state has the largest population of those with reported Somali heritage in the country, according to U.S. Census Bureau data, and Trump claimed they are completely taking over the state. Okay. Do you hear yourself? Say that again slowly. The state has the largest population of those with reported Somali heritage. And then he goes on to say this, right? And Trump claimed they are completely, air quotes, completely taking over the state. It's like the author is like trying to like show you like he's saying like Trump claimed that, they're taking over the state. And yes, they all live there. It's not an invasion. It's not taking over of the state, even though they all live there. It's not an invasion of the state, even though they all live there and they have gang warfare there. But they're not taking over the state, even though they're all there. And that's where they all migrate, because their family is there. That has nothing to do with it. It's so stupid. Anyway, furthermore, but even before the shooting, Trump had already scrutinized the Somali presence in Minnesota. Yeah, again, because this has been going on for much longer than frickin' 7 days, okay? During his first term, he targeted them at a rally, saying leaders in Washington brought large numbers of refugees to Minnesota without considering the impact on schools and communities and taxpayers. This is correct. You ready for this? You ready for this? This is correct. Okay? I believe it's the TPS, right? So it was TPS. This is those people in Washington bringing them in. Temporary protected status for 10,000 Somalis in Minnesota and 500,000 Somalis nationwide. Now, again, this is kind of attached to a fraud case, which we're going to get into that into a little bit. But like they're trying to say like, oh, Trump said like that people in Washington brought them here. Yeah, they did. And yeah, they didn't consider the impact on schools or communities or taxpayers at all. They didn't, actually. More recently, he claimed on November 21st on Truth Social that Somali gangs are terrorizing the people of that great state and billions of dollars are missing. And he announced he would end temporary protected statuses for Somalis effective immediately. Again, this is kind of part of the money laundering scheme that kind of happens even sometimes with green cards. You can have somebody get $30,000 a year from their green card situation, and their family will get an additional $50,000 in benefits. Ridiculous. It's all money laundering. The other thing, too, is there were people in Minnesota, there were politicians and people in Washington that were attached to I believe it was either a charity or it was like a migration outreach refugee program. And they were paid, I think it was between $2,000 and $3,000 per Somali that they helped assist migrate or escape or seek asylum in Minnesota. So there you have it. There's your fiduciary interest right there. There was a group of politicians in Washington that had a fiduciary interest, meaning they were going to make money off of a problem, basically, or cause a problem and then make money off of it. So what they do is they bring in these super tribal Somali people who then eventually will want their family back and in Minnesota as well to live with them. But this is not false information. This actually happened. It's very traceable. So we can pull up the fraud case here in a second. But so what I want to hear is the Time article's rationale as to why they think there are so many Somalis in Minnesota. We know, you know, I know, we all know, but we don't know, but we know that they were imported because there was a company or an organization that was making money off of it. Isn't it so funny how like so much of this just comes down to money making? Anyway, so what's their rationale? Minnesota is home to the largest Somali community in the United States. More than 61,000 persons of the state's approximately 5.7 million population have reported Somali ancestry. According to census data, since the early 1990s, Somalis have consistently arrived in the country, often as refugees from the East African country's civil war. Many Somali refugees found Minnesota appealing because of the available social services and welfare programs that helped them resettle, and over time, because of the growing diaspora that had already resettled there. Wow. So they came for social services and benefits and the welfare, and because they came, their families overseas saw that and said, I want a chunk of that. I want to bite off a piece of that. I want some of that. Give me some of the freaking gravy train, you know what I mean? So then they come over, they follow their family, they create these giant hubs. Again, I've seen this in Virginia. You have groups of Pakistani, Filipino, Mexican families and Indian families that come and they literally take over neighborhoods. Again, sometimes this is fine. It's when you bring your gang warfare and your tribal affiliation overseas with you. That I've got a problem with. And also, I got a problem with it when you use your benefits to buy up real estate in neighborhoods in Virginia and sell the homes cheaper to your family who's coming overseas and upsell it way more expensively to the white people who are trying to buy a house. How often have you seen that? Nobody's talking about that. Anyway, I've seen it. I used to work for people that did that. Well, not work for them directly, but indirectly. Over time, Somalis have become integrated into the community and have played larger roles in local and even national government, including Representative Ilhan Omar, who in 2018 became the first Somali American elected to Congress and has been a frequent target of Trump's attacks. Well, I wonder why. She hates America. Citizens of Somali were first given TPS status in September 1991 under the presidency of Republican President George H.W. Bush. The administration back then granted the status, recognizing that there exist extraordinary and temporary conditions in Somalia that prevent aliens who are nationals of Somalia from returning to Somalia in safety. Since then, the TPS status of Somalis has been either extended or redesignated 27 times in recognition of the ongoing conflict in the nation. According to a report by the Nonpartisan Congressional Research Service earlier this year, with the latest extension coming during the Biden administration, when the Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas pushed the end date of Somali's TPS status to March 17th, 2026. And Trump is basically, we're done. We're done with that. We're going to end it all. Which I'm happy about that. I'm excited to see that. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, the current Security Secretary, says it was never meant to be an asylum program. She said this on a briefing on Sunday. In defense of Trump's decision to end the TPS designation for nationals of Somalia as well as other nations, including Venezuela and Nicaragua, she says it was always meant to be put in place after an incident or even an event of temporary basis, and that's what the evaluation will be. So they're going to check and see, hey, do you need this money anymore? Do you need this green card anymore? Do you need this visa anymore? Do you need TPS anymore? Answer is probably going to be no for 99% of those situations. And that's great news. That's great news for the citizens of Minnesota, for Americans in general. No more funding goes towards that. We save a bunch of money. We stop going into debt. Housing prices will probably drop in that area since they all, jump the prices and bump them up incredibly. So, given that has been kind of covered, so they kind of brag on, later in the article, they brag, we're going to get into some of my notes here. The author brags on Somali success, business ownership, graduations, whatever, but buries the failures. 50% unemployment rate in a lot of their enclaves. And I have the sources on all of this, by the way. $500 million in annual welfare drain. And this is per Minnesota state audits. And the FBI warnings on al-Shabaab recruitment, dozens radicalized since 2016. TPS contributions may overlay in chaining in relatives, which again contributes to that $500 million in annual drain, and it's not adding anything to the city. So you're getting higher unemployment rates. You got everybody is on welfare. You're draining the state of its resources and its funding. And then on top of that, all these people are subject to al-Shabaab recruitment. Yeah, that sounds phenomenal. Another thing, let's see. We get some false equivalencies here. So again, the author equates the fraud probe, which is DOJ led, and it's kind of bipartisan, and it equates it with Trump's vendetta, which means he's ignoring Biden era indictments. And furthermore, they skip over how it's ballooned to 1 million plus under Dems, fueling sanctuary sprawl. So TPS, so like has ballooned to 2 million people. I'm sorry, 1 million people, which is not what it was intended for. And then again, stupid emotional bait, photos of hijab-clad families, no court documents, the big thing in the article was just like Somalis aren't going to go anywhere, which is just a big middle finger to the actual residents of Minnesota that deserve to live there and not to be fiscally drained by a bunch of people on welfare and get involved in gangs. Thank you. So let me see. One little thing here. Mr. Nick Shirley was in Minnesota. And there's kind of a good point here. He was over in Cedar Riverside. And it now, again, previously a Scandinavian hub in the 90s, is now a Somalian hub after Somalia's civil war. It's most of these people, again, like we said earlier, are attracted to welfare programs, family incentives. And obviously, he's going in there right as Trump is talking about the Somalis. Let me see. So, I believe Shirley talks about the scamming going on over there. Yeah, so the nonprofits allegedly scammed $250 million plus in COVID-era child nutrition funds via fake services, more than the state's entire corrections budget, dozens indicted, with Trump calling for deportations. Let me see here. And then again, to back up Nick Shirley, if you don't know who Nick Shirley is, so he's a YouTuber, independent journalist, really gets in there. He just won an award for being I guess he was Independent Journalist of the Year. He runs a show on YouTube. He's got like 1 million or 2 million subscribers now. He's like the first American journalist to go to the El Salvador prisons. He went to the border, and he kind of has opened up to the idea of Islam's rise in America. And so he actually did a video in July called Inside the Rise of Islam in America, and it was huge. It was humongous. It was an amazing video. But he shared a clip on X of him dealing with Muslims in Minnesota, also Somalis. And he began asking people in the area, like, hey, I want to ask you about the rise of Islam. Like, what do you think of Islam? What do you think of Somalis in Minnesota? Everybody responded. They responded with either I don't speak English, I don't want to speak English, or they just didn't answer and they ignored him. And then, this guy says, like, I'm not speaking English, only one Somali language. And then, let's see. Again, asking women can you speak on camera? They said no. it's against Islam. And then there's a guy who jumped in and was like, no women on camera. And again, like super conservative extremist Islamic normals. And then he kind of closed the clip out with basically a guy yelling at him to delete the video, to not video. He kind of pretends to delete the video. And Nick was just like, oh, I'm just asking questions or whatever. And he was near an apartment complex that is actually known now for gang violence with Somali gangs. And so this guy is coming up on him, and they're like, we're going to make sure you leave. We're going to make sure you delete this. We're going to make sure you don't ever come back. So Shirley's leaving, and he's got a guy following him. You know what I mean? Like, he's got a guy following him for asking questions. I mean, so what if you ask questions to maybe a guy who's affiliated with the gang? But, I mean, that's the culture. That's the culture there. That's what you're welcoming there now. You happy about that? Ugh. Anyway. So, anyway, got a big bunch of views. Did really well on YouTube. So that's all I think I really got. Just a really quick episode on Somalia, some fast facts, the refugee crisis. I'm still kind of buttressing my views here on immigration right now. I really do think we need to shut it down, man. I mean, you talk to like any American who's not been brainwashed into thinking it's okay for them to be fiscally drained, 150 to 450 billion dollars a year. Most Americans would say, yeah, I don't want the border open anymore. I don't want anybody coming here anymore. I can't afford groceries. I can't afford a house. I can't pay my, property taxes are insane. That was kind of irrelevant, but I hate the property tax. I hate the income tax too. Frick you. This country should make enough money doing everything else that I don't need to pay those things. Anyway, remember, taxation is theft. That's all I got. Peace out.